Street musician Dave has had another argument with his girlfriend, so he temporarily moves in with his sister. Tess is an independent woman who consciously chose to raise her son, Felix, on her own. From a young age, Felix knows he was born through IVF. Dave's arrival turns into a test for his sister. He acts irresponsibly and doesn't choose his words carefully around the child, setting a poor example for his nephew. One evening, Dave decides to have some fun and pulls Felix out of bed, dresses him up as Darth Vader, and heads over to his girlfriend Sarah's, hoping to patch things up with her using his nephew. However, the plan goes awry. When they enter her apartment, Sarah is in a rather compromising situation with a collie. Little Felix witnesses the scene and hears a lot of new phrases that are definitely not meant for kids. When Dave returns home with Felix, he encounters an enraged Tess, who's at a loss for words to express her disappointment and frustration with her brother's behavior. She ends up kicking him out of her home. However, when Dave, realizing his mistake, sincerely apologizes, even tearfully asking for forgiveness, Tess softens and allows him to stay, but only on the condition that he starts helping around the house and shows some responsibility. The next day, Dave takes on the responsibility of bringing his nephew to kindergarten. There, he notices other kids laughing at Felix because of his unusual lunch prepared by his mom. The thing is, Felix has a severe allergy, so his diet looks unusual to his peers, and his food is different from what other kids usually bring. When Dave sees the teacher, Audrey Caroline, he's immediately thrilled and tries to impress her. He doesn't miss a chance to show his sense of humor, subtly teasing Max, the boy who often picks on his nephew Felix. At the end of the day, while picking up Felix from kindergarten, Dave overhears that one of the adults, who was supposed to chaperone the kids on a field trip, has fallen ill. Sensing an opportunity to get closer to Audrey, he immediately volunteers. The next day, the kids set off on the field trip. Along the way, the bus breaks down and Audrey, trying to keep the kids entertained, asks Dave for help. Feeling inspired, he decides to play his rock music for the kids, not considering that it might scare them. Startled, the children cover their ears, but fortunately, the driver quickly fixes the problem, and the bus resumes its journey. Meanwhile, an emergency alert is issued at a nearby military base. A test subject infected with an unknown virus has escaped from the lab. Several people have already been attacked and turned into zombies. When the kids see a military convoy passing by the bus, they watch the soldiers and vehicles with fascination, unaware of the approaching danger. Finally, the group arrives at a place called Valley of Fun Farm. The children are thrilled when they are greeted by a well-known children's host, Teddy McGill, who leads them into a petting zoo. Time flies as the kids happily play and interact with the animals, fully immersed in the joyful atmosphere. While adults and children are enjoying themselves, no one notices the approaching danger. Slowly but surely, a group of zombies is making its way from the military base toward the farm, ready to disrupt their carefree fun. Dave, exhausted from the endless screams and cries of children, notices a ring on Audrey's hand and realizes with surprise that she's engaged. This news knocks him off balance, and he feels his hopes of getting closer to Audrey crumble. Meanwhile, zombies begin flooding the farm, causing panic among the tourists. A group of children, along with their caretaker, Mrs. Caroline, ride on a tractor that suddenly stops in the middle of the road. The driver, spotting a strange man near a sheep, steps out to investigate. Audrey realizes the situation is critical and the children are in danger. She quickly orders Dave to take the wheel, while she grabs a pitchfork, pushing one of the zombies back to hold it in place, then rushes back to the kids. Despite her fear, she tries to stay calm so the children won't panic. When the tractor encounters an obstacle, a cow's body surrounded by several zombies, Audrey decides to turn the situation into a game to distract the children. She tells them that their new task is to stick together and avoid the people with blood spots. The kids, intrigued, happily follow Audrey as she leads them to the nearest safe shelter. They manage to reach a cafe where popular children's host Teddy McGill has barricaded himself. Audrey helps the children through a small pet hatch and then climbs in after them. Dave doesn't make it in time, so he climbs onto the roof and enters from above. Inside, he is met by Teddy, who in a panic refuses to let anyone else into his refuge. A struggle ensues between the two men, during which Dave manages to gain the upper hand. He immediately opens the doors to allow Audrey and the children to find shelter inside. After securing the windows and doors, the young adults begin searching for ways to call for help but quickly realize there's no cell service and no landline in the building. To lift the children's spirits and distract them, the caretaker tells them that they successfully passed the first level of the game. When the children notice Teddy McGill looking worn out and worried, Audrey explains that he's just upset because they're beating him in the game. When Teddy starts to get nervous and speak rudely, Audrey pulls him aside, holding a shard of glass and quietly but firmly explains how he needs to behave in front of the children. To divert the kids' attention, Dave finds a basket of chips and starts handing them out. A few minutes later, Felix has a severe allergy attack. The frightened Bo holds onto his uncle's hand, refusing to let go. Realizing that the allergy medication was left in the backpacks outside, Audrey decides to risk going out to find it. Trying not to attract the bloodthirsty creature's attention, she sneaks to the truck where the children's belongings are. Meanwhile, Dave tries to calm Felix and the other kids by singing a children's song with them, creating a warm and reassuring atmosphere. Audrey finally reaches the truck, but her task is complicated by the fact that all the backpacks look identical, so she has to open each one to find the necessary medication. Eventually, she finds the right backpack and arms herself with a shovel for protection. Using it, she bravely pushes away the zombies in her path and manages to return just in time to administer the medicine to Felix. When the boy starts breathing easily, the caretaker jumps with joy and dances with the kids, celebrating their safety. At this moment, Dave watches Audrey's actions in admiration, realizing how strong and brave she truly is. Soon they hear the sound of a helicopter, and Teddy rushes to the roof, hoping to signal it. However, he loses his balance and falls. Regaining consciousness, he begs Audrey to let him back inside, but she remains resolute, remembering how he had refused to help them at a critical moment. Without hesitation, Dave rushes to the roof and helps McGill out of the dangerous spot, saving him from the approaching horde of zombies. Once safe, the TV host unexpectedly begins sharing his true feelings about his career with Dave. It turns out that, despite being idolized by millions of children, he actually harbors a hidden resentment toward them. The only satisfaction he gets from his job is the chance to have fleeting affairs with the trusting mothers of his young fans, which he later brags about. Meanwhile, the military is developing a plan to eliminate the infected. Reconnaissance has confirmed that all zombies have gathered in a place known as Happy Farm, and the authorities decide to drop a bomb on the area. However, they are unaware that a group of people is still on the farm, directly within the intended blast zone. Meanwhile, worried parents, who haven't been able to contact the caretaker or Dave all day, start arriving at the farm. Their concern grows when they see the entire area cordoned off by the military. The soldiers have been given strict orders to keep the infection contained, even if it means completely clearing the farm and destroying anyone who might be infected. At this time, Audrey and Dave are trying to put the children to sleep so they can rest a little. When the children finally fall asleep, Audrey and Dave start talking. Audrey admits that she feels intense fear, but has to hide her emotions so the little ones feel safe and don't panic. In response, Dave shares his own struggles and a recent breakup, then talks about his difficult childhood. When he was only 5, his father left the family, and his mother could no longer cope with life's challenges, losing touch with reality. His older sister, Tess, took on the role of raising him, and he'll always be grateful to her, though the realization of this gratitude came much later. Audrey shares her story, recalling how she started working with children at 18. In her youth, she was a huge fan of a famous band and once took a wild leap, running away from home to follow the musicians on their tour across the country. She even managed to sneak into the hotel where her idols were staying, but a guard spotted her. Trying to avoid trouble, she jumped out of a window and broke her collarbone. Ending up in the hospital, she was left alone without support, money, and with a newfound lack of confidence. When she was offered a job as an assistant at a school, she accepted, as it was her only chance to pay off her debts. It was then she realized that working with children was her true calling. The children accepted her without judgment, which restored her self-confidence. Audrey also confesses that she broke up with her fiancé a while ago, but continues to wear the ring to avoid unwanted advances from persistent fathers. The next morning, Dave proposes a rescue plan. He intends to break through the crowd of zombies and bring a tractor close to the building to help evacuate the children from the farm. Teddy, for his part, suggests using his van, the McGill Mobile, which has a hatch through which they can enter the cabin. Meanwhile, the children start getting fussy, having barely slept and eaten. To Audrey's surprise, Dave finds a way to calm them down. He picks up a ukulele and begins to sing, lifting everyone's spirits. After that, Dave, together with Teddy, decides to leave the shelter to bring the vehicle closer to the building. Meanwhile, the military receives orders to start clearing the area in an hour. When Teddy reaches the van, he unexpectedly locks the doors from the inside and gestures to Dave, showing that he has no intention of helping anyone else, thinking only of his own survival. However, his selfishness backfires. There's a cameraman inside the van who has already turned into a zombie. Teddy quickly realizes his mistake, but is unable to escape and dies in agony. Dave is forced to climb onto the roof of the van to stay out of reach of the zombies. As soon as his phone gets a signal, he receives a call from Tess. He finally says the words he's long wanted to say, thanking her for all the support she's given him throughout his life. However, in the chaos, he drops the phone and Tess only hears fragments of his shouting and cursing. Audrey, watching everything unfold from the window, doesn't notice Felix quietly slipping outside. Debo puts on his Darth Vader costume and, convinced it's all part of the game, bravely runs through the crowd of zombies. Believing he's part of an exciting adventure, he reaches the tractor and drives it over to Dave. Together they ram the tractor into the cafe wall, rescuing the children and driving them off the farm. Miss Caroline hands the kids mini golf clubs and instructs them to use them for protection. If anyone gets too close, to distract the children from their fear, she starts playing the ukulele and singing, trying to create a joyful atmosphere. Soon she's surprised to see that the music and singing affect the zombies. They begin to calm down, even trying to clap along and softly hum, turning into almost harmless beings. When they finally reach the military post, Dave shouts for them to let them through the barricade. After a brief hesitation, the commander orders the tractor to be Aladdin. As soon as the children are safely outside the quarantine zone, the soldiers open fire on the zombies. Audrey counts the children and, with a sigh of relief, unexpectedly kisses Dave. At that moment, a powerful explosion occurs on the farm, and the sight captures the children's attention. Moments later, a team in protective suits approaches the group of survivors to thoroughly examine them and rule out any possible infection. Everyone is escorted to a special van and taken to a quarantine zone for additional checks. The army general gathers the parents and informs them that their children are safe and sound, thanks to the bravery of Audrey and Dave. He admits that in all his years of service, he's never seen such selflessness. Because of this courageous pair's efforts, the children not only escaped danger, but didn't even realize how close they were to a real threat. Finally, the parents are allowed to see their children. Smiling, they watch through the glass as Miss Caroline and Dave continue singing cheerful songs, with the children dancing and laughing. This dangerous situation has completely changed the life of the street musician, becoming a new beginning for him. And that's how the movie ends. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, and see you next time.